Hi, friends. My name is Kimberly Masters, and I am a recovered alcoholic. It's so good to be here. Thank you, Dario, for the invite. I feel as though I've shared my story a lot in the past couple of weeks due to these Zoom meetings. So I'll kind of try to change it up again a little bit for those who have heard it before, but I'll add some for those who have not heard it. So yes, I do run another meeting. It's called 164 and Beyond, and I'm just going to start there today because it's kind of one of those God gifts that I got as a result of this program. I was told to get into service, as most of us are, by a sponsor, and I became a GSR at my home group. And I was told I'd have to go to a quarterly conference, and I was like, okay, that sounds like fun. I like to travel, and I could do a weekend, and it kind of seemed like an easy service position that I didn't have to do much. I had to go to a district meeting a month and go to a quarterly every 3 months. I could do that. And so I kind of lucked upon that position. It was perfect for me. I have a busy life with 2 kids. I'm a single mom. And I thought this would be a good little solution for me to do service. It grew into something ginormous. It was one of those little God-given gifts. So I went to this quarterly conference, and I was assigned a committee, and I went and I sat in the committee room with a bunch of mature members of Alcoholics Anonymous who were not familiar with technology. And they were discussing ways of reaching remote communities up here in British Columbia, because we do have a lot of remote communities, and they have home groups that have 3 or 4 members. And so if you go to your home group and you hear the same 3 or 4 people every time, you don't get a variety of recovery. So it kind of planted a seed for me that I thought, I can help out there, and went back to my district and said, we were talking about this remote communities. We want to, see if we can do a meeting. And the chair of the committee had said, the only thing we're looking for is someone that can be consistent. And I'm a little bit tenacious, and I was like, I can do that. I can be consistent. I can build this. And off I went, and I became the new remote communities chair for my little district out here in British Columbia. And we started a Zoom meeting about 7 months ago on a Monday night, and we had an oil worker up north that would pop on, myself, and a girlfriend that I said had to come so I wouldn't be the only one on. And we had a single mom that had heard me share about it at a meeting, and she couldn't get to meetings because she had a baby at home. And so the 4 of us started out on this Zoom meeting 7 months ago. And I loved it. I would announce it everywhere I went. We're looking for people to help with a Zoom meeting. We want to have more stories, because I was hearing from the people that were attending, especially the oil worker, at how much it was helping him. He was isolated like 21 days at a time, I believe, and everyone else in the oil camp drank and used and was not in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so he had 22 years sober, and he really loved that we were doing this Zoom meeting. So it was kind of, this little heartfelt thing. I loved being able to be of service and help him. And as you know, the world shut down about 47 days ago, and everybody who had heard me share about this little online meeting started calling and saying, "Hey, don't you have a meeting?" And I saw a link that said you could post your meeting with Intergroup in New York, and I just barely missed them shutting down the New York office, but the day I emailed them was their last day working, and they got my listing up. And having a background in marketing, I saw that the list was in alphabetical order, so the numbered names would come first, and I liked the first 164 pages of the big book, so I named my meeting 164 and Beyond, and we got at the top of the list. And that first Monday night, we had 100 people max out and people waiting to get in our meeting. And I was like, whoa, I need to do something. And so I talked to a girl in the district, Andrea, and we increased the capacity to 1,000. And so that next Tuesday night, we had, I think, 600 people on our meeting the second night. And people were like, "Do you run any other meetings? What else do you do?" And I was like, "Well, sure we do. Okay, yeah, all right, let's do it." And so we expanded to doing 3 hours at night every day of the week and a morning meeting every day of the week. And I just set out. I was like, you know what, people want it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to help. And I stepped up to God's plate and joined his all-star team. And our meeting just exploded. And to say that my life exploded as a result is an understatement. I had already been enjoying the gifts of this program. I do a lot of service. I have a lot of sponsees. I have an amazing sponsor who helps guide me. And I was just getting into learning the traditions, and I got a crash course in traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous in that first week of making that meeting go big. And to see the gifts like just blossom in my life, like the peace and serenity in my head has just been amazing. And being able to share my love of Alcoholics Anonymous has been the greatest gift of all. So a little bit about me, now that I've told you the story of how people found me. I was just your usual middle-class girl from the suburbs. I had a great upbringing. Everything seemed pretty, and, honor roll, student council, girl next door. I played sports. I just was your average teenage kid. But in my head, I didn't feel like I fit in. I didn't feel good enough. I was always trying to please people. My dog just knocked over my light. And my daughter isn't helping. And so I was a chameleon. I would blend in with whoever I was in school. I was a jock with the jocks. I was a cheerleader with the cheerleaders. I was on student council. I just molded to be whatever I needed to be to fit in, because I never felt like anything good enough. And that kind of was the way my teenage years went. I got introduced to alcohol when I was 16 years old, and I absolutely loved it. It made me feel prettier, taller, smarter, more confident. It made me fit in with the kids that I wanted to be part of. And that was my love of alcohol. It started from that day. I loved alcohol, but alcohol didn't ever love me back. It brought a lot of pain and misery to my life. I got involved in the bar scene shortly after high school. I was a single mom at that point. And, I got introduced to exotic dancing and the underworld of Vancouver nightlife, and I loved it. I felt like I had arrived, like Bill talks about in his story. And that was like the narrative of my next 10 years. I dated high profile men, and I was the arm candy. I was the little doting girlfriend during the day, but I didn't have anybody else. I had no friends. Women and I didn't get along because they wanted things that I had. And so I had to keep women away, because they're trying to steal my thunder at work, or they're trying to steal my man, or they're trying to steal the attention away from me in the social scene. And so, I was always alone. I had none of those girlfriends on the weekend, you see in the movies where they're going on road trips or to the beach, or they're going for lunches or shopping. That wasn't the case for me. During the day, it was me and my kid. It was the two of us against the world. Usually I dated guys that already had a family, so they were with their family during the day, and I would only see them at night. And that was the narrative of my 10 years, from 20 until 30. Of course, that has to come to an end. So, what's the best thing a girl's going to do is, well, you're going to get a straight job, and you're going to marry a good guy, and you're going to get your white picket fence, and away you go, right? Like, this was just my 20s. I was going to outgrow this little phase. And I was just a party girl of my 20s. Like, everybody does it. It's all good. There's no problem here. Let's move on. Got a wicked corporate job. Got a really amazing husband who had a great job. Within a couple years, we had $1 million house, 2 beautiful cars in the driveway, 2 beautiful kids in the backyard playing on their beautiful, expensive swing set. We had a boat that we would take out on the weekends and go crabbing. And then, we had all of our couple friends over every weekend, and we would host UFC. We would host barbecues. We were the couple that everybody wanted to be like. The only thing missing was that literal picket fence. But what was going on behind the scenes was we were always drinking. We had nothing really in common except, this really shiny exterior. So what were we to talk about? Well, we sat and we watched UFC and we drank, or we used other substances. There was no substance to our relationship. It looked really good from the outside, but, he went to work, I went to work, we came home, we fed the kids, we watched TV, drank, went to bed. That was the life. Like, there was no extracurricular activities. I did take up couponing once. I was an extreme couponer because we had no money, because our entire paychecks were going to drugs and alcohol. But yeah, that was a good hobby. It lasted a couple years. I had a stockpile like on those TV shows. It was fantastic. But my life had no depth, no weight. I was succeeding at work, miserable at home. And then my husband lost his job and depression set in. I was now the sole breadwinner and he was jealous of me, resentful of me. I was cheating with everybody that talked to me. If you sneezed, I was probably sleeping with you because he had that crazy mental twist going on. And so domestic violence became a huge part of my story. I was miserable. I was the typical miserable white woman in the suburbs, drinking wine all night, doing other substances, taking antidepressants and anxiety pills in the day, and abusing pain medication from my doctor because I didn't want to be me. I didn't know who I was, and I thought it was fine because it's glorified on TV. Every mom's drinking wine. Don't you know? Everybody's got their wine in their coffee cup and they're walking to school with their kids, and they joke about it. Or we have Tupperware parties or tea light parties and all these stupid parties we have with our other moms from school to drink our wine and bitch about our husbands. Yes, guys, that's what happens at those parties. And that was the narrative of my life then. I had no identity. Again, I was somebody's mom and somebody's husband or the girl that hosts the good parties. Like, I was just always something to somebody else. I was never just me. Nobody called to see how I was doing. Nobody cared about me. And so I was miserable. Overweight, depressed, miserable, and addicted to everything under the sun. I had 17 prescription pain pills and a box of wine in my fridge. But everything looked really good on the outside. I left my husband and life was going to be better. I've got a wicked job. I've got money in the bank because we split the house and, my problems have ended. No, now I have new problems. I work a lot and I'm stressed out and I don't see my kids. I'm constantly running around doing my kids' activities. Again, nothing for me. All about my kids. Everything is about everybody else. There's nothing for me. A little bit resentful. The weeks my ex had my kids, I had no identity at all. I'm nobody's girlfriend, nobody's wife, and I have no kids. So what do? I go to the casino and talk to people with the slot machine because I can't be by myself. I don't have an identity. I don't have a life. I have nothing to offer except go to work, be a mom. I didn't know anything else. So alcohol became my best friend. Me and my bottle of wine, right? That was my buddy, and the only other person I talked to was the guy bringing the things I shouldn't be doing to the door. I would tell him my whole life story in 15 minutes, and he was my new best friend, my dial-a-dope guy, right? That's my buddy. We're buddies, and that was the next 5 years of my life. And then I thought, this has got to stop. People are starting to notice a little bit. I'm going to work. It's affecting my job. My boss is mentioning things and I'm starting to feel a little bad, but it's not bad because everybody else is worse than me. So it's not a big deal. My ex-husband's getting court-ordered to treatment. So, he's got a problem, not me. Or she's got a problem because she's being suspended at work, not me. So everybody else is worse than me. So I don't have to look at me. I'm looking at them. So I started dating a guy who was sober because there is a wicked solution because if he's sober, I'm not going to drink and I've still got a boyfriend and he's a bad boy, but he's reformed. This is a wicked idea. Wicked idea. Only a sober guy dating a girl that has a bit of a wine and pill problem is a bit of a red flag. Just didn't know that at the time, but it's a huge red flag. So he was on his way out of whatever program he was in. He had a big, huge relapse. I had never seen someone drink and use like him. So, of course, I don't have a problem. Look at his problem once again. But he had support that got him quickly back into detox, which brought me into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, which brought me to you people. I love saying you people because our hockey guru up here, Ton Cherry, got in trouble for it. And like, you people are my people. And I'm so grateful to have been brought into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I sat in my first meeting and I was like, oh, I'm not part of this. They asked me to share. No, I'm here for him. He has a problem. You should ask him to share. Look at him sweating all that booze out. I'm just supporting him. Yeah, that's it. 10 minutes later, I hear my story. Bus crash in a movie. My life flashes before my eyes and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. She's telling my story. That's my problem. I'm an alcoholic. My life's unmanageable. Look how unmanageable my life is. Wow, yeah, I belong here. That was the extent to that I got step one. My life is unmanageable and I can't drink. Yep, that's step one for sure. So I sat in that room. They said, keep coming back, kid, keep coming back, kid. And I kept coming back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm here. I'm dry. I'm not drinking. I'm getting my chips. I'm racking up the days, but I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, identifying, yeah, that's me. Oh, yeah, that's me. Okay, good. I'm not going to drink. Good. I was a dry drunk in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous for 14 months. Life felt crap. He relapsed again. Life got really ugly really quick. About 2 weeks, my life fell apart. I was on my way to the bar, and God got someone to phone me out of the blue and say, hey, I haven't seen you in a while, which got me back into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I sat and I cried and I said, y'all got these spiritual toolkits? I need one of those. Like, where do you get me a spiritual toolkit? Oh, Thursday night at a step group. Sure, I'll be there. So I started going to this Thursday night ladies step group. What I know now that I did not know then, it was just a bunch of suburban moms who didn't want to drink, who had put down the Tupperware and picked up a big book. And I started my venture to social suburban recovery. It's called middle of the road recovery in the big book. You know, it was that middle of the road solution, but it got me a little more sober and it got me a little more spiritually connected. You know, I started using words that were in the big book and it sounded really good. Life looked really good. Things started getting better, but it wasn't great. You know, I was still making some really shitty choices, mostly with men, because I still hadn't filled that big gap. But, you know, they were better than they were before. And I had people guiding me with these red flags I was painting green, you know. So these 2-year shitty relationships were actually getting shorter to 2 months. So I thought I was doing really good. I'm seeing red flags. I'm getting out of these relationships. And then it got to 2 weeks, right? So I'm like, I'm getting really good at noticing red flags. I'm praying and all this stuff, and this is going well. And then my ex-husband passed away. You see, while I was getting better, he was getting worse. And it left me a lone parent. He had had a fentanyl overdose on Thanksgiving an hour and a half after I'd picked my kids up from dinner. And his family turned on me and blamed me. It's my fault he's dead. You know, you killed him, you took the kids away, and he got worse, and he died. And I held that guilt for a few days. And until my sponsor at the time and my supportive group of friends made me realize that I have no guilt in that. You know, I was like, what if I had stayed? Because he had always said I was a runner. You're a runner, Kim. You run. As soon as there's a problem, you run. Well, I didn't have any other coping mechanisms, so I ran. I knew I couldn't stay in a situation because it was bad and it was killing me, so I left because I didn't have the tools to properly deal with it. So now I had a half-full spiritual toolkit and some people with some all right guidance that guided me a little bit. And I was able to realize that I had no guilt in his death. You know, I had saved myself for my children, and I had gotten what I had gotten out of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous up until that time, so I would be able to be there when their dad died. God had given me that gift of those spiritual tools so that when I had the lowest day of our lives, I would be sober and able to support them through that day. And he had given me a new gift of a new room of Alcoholics Anonymous where people spoke with enthusiasm about the big book. I had never in my life seen the enthusiasm they spoke with about this big book. I thought they were a little bit off and people started calling them big book thumpers, but there was something about those people that I wanted to know more about. So I kept going to their meeting. And they had been talking about something called a rapid set of steps. You got to do a rapid set of steps, not this 4-month step group stuff. We do it different here. And I was like, let me know what you're doing. I want it. I want it. I want it. I'm in the depths of like my worst week of my life. I consider that week my spiritual bottom. And I got introduced to the big book in a way that changed my life. I sat down with the scariest woman I've ever met, who introduces herself as a total alcoholic. And she is from the different side of the tracks for me, 100%. But she read me this book one word at a time and explained each and everything through it. And so instead of going through and checking it off with my neat little check marks, step 1, yep, my life's unmanageable. Step 2, yeah, okay, I'll do the universe. All right, step 3, I'll hand it to God. God, take that stuff away. Step 4, yeah, I don't like you. Step 5, this is all the things I don't like about these people. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. But I was taken through this book in a new way, and I was shown step 1. Not your life is unmanageable, you can't pay your bills, and you pick shitty men. No, your life is unmanageable in that you say you want to stop drinking, and yet you keep finding a way to drink. Or you say you're only going to drink a glass of wine on a Friday night with dinner, and Saturday morning you don't know where your underwear are and you've drank 2 bottles of tequila. And who's this guy that's now calling you thinking he's your new boyfriend? Like, this was my life. That was unmanageable. I could not control the amount of alcohol I ingested once I started drinking. And once I stopped drinking, I couldn't stay stopped. I'm not going to drink for a year. The next day, I'm hungover. That was step one. And I got a whole new understanding because I was explained it and taken through the book. Step 2 and 3, I was able to connect with a God of my understanding. I was able to take away all of that pain of my childhood from growing up Catholic and fearing God and, being punished for being bad. I was just sick, needing to get well. I wasn't bad, needing to get good. I had made poor decisions, lots of them, but they were based on a lot of fear and insecurities that I learned about in my step 4. And I was able to take all of the shame that carried me around for 15, 20 years and give it away to God and another person in my step 5. I had done a bunch of step 5s, but I really had done everybody else I'd ever known's inventory. I'd never really looked at myself. And I never really got rid of the shameful secrets, those things in your skeletons in your closet. Yeah, step 5 is just cleaning out your closet. Those skeletons don't need to be there anymore. And I'm able to throw them away. And then all those fears and insecurities and inadequacies I got to, give away to God in my step 6, 7. Step 6, 7, super, super simple. It's prayer. I'd always been working on myself, reading self-help books, reading books about how to overcome my defects of character, when really I just had to, know I had some fears and ask God to take them away. And He has. And the more I've learned to keep Him close and do His work well, the more He's taken my fears away. I'm still not going to walk on a cliff like millions of miles up in the sky because I still am not good with heights because I don't want to die. But, I can fly. I can get into relationships without a fear of judgment. I can stand at the front of the room and tell my story and not care if you think I'm an idiot because I think I have a gift and I feel like God works within me and I need to share my things in order to help other people. And I'm able to make my amends. To anybody. Sometimes I really, really don't like it. So I do try to live my life doing the next right thing so that I don't have to make any amends, which, is kind of working this program in all of my affairs anyways. But when and if I do make a mistake, I'm going to be the first to speak up and say, I really regret the actions that I took, or I really regret that I said that to you. I pause before I speak. Sometimes very audibly, I'll be like, I can't answer that right now. Like, I need to be quiet. If I'm having trouble in a personal relationship, sometimes I will wait 24 hours to respond to a text message because I have to sit and digest. So the ability to not react is like a God gift because I'm a reactive person. I'm going to put you in your place and tell you what I like or don't like about you. And I don't really care about the result of why you don't like what I don't like about you because that's my opinion, But I had to take a step back and live with that kind and love that I'm meant to walk in life for because, like they say, we attract more bees with honey. And my job as a person who walks in God's light is to attract people to my light. So many people are stuck in the darkness and don't know that there's another way out. And that's the whole purpose of this program of Alcoholics Anonymous, is to shine our light and to attract those people to our program and our way of life. Because the only way that people are going to get out of the darkness is if they see a little bit of light. It's like a little plant. When you plant the seed, that little sprout that sprouts, it's seeking the light. It wants to break the ground to find the light. And then even when it breaks the ground, it sprouts more little branches because it wants more light. So I have to shine my light on people who live in the darkness, so that they want to make those branches. Because those branches are those of willingness, open-mindedness, and honesty. And that's the only way they're going to turn their light on in themselves, is if they're willing and able to see in someone else that it's worked. And so I'm a light keeper. I walk every day in love and light because I know that I couldn't help my ex-husband. I know I couldn't help my sponsee Lillian who passed away, or many, many other friends that are still suffering. I couldn't help them because I wasn't shining my light then. So, because of my ex husband's death, I amped my light up. I found God. I connected to God. I serve God because that's the only way I can help people. Compassion is great, but hope saves. So, showing people that this was me then and this is me now gives them hope. And hope opens the door to willingness. It's the key that unlocks this program. So, when we share, please share with hope. Please share all of you with everyone so that they can find the light and they can seek it. Because there's too much darkness out there and we need way more light shining, because that's the only way we're going to help people in this program. And I thank you, Dario, for asking me to share. And I apologize to people who've heard it all before. I hope it was a little bit different.
Well, the only people that probably heard this, Kimberly, are the ones who followed you here. So, but there's a lot of new people here that I think are going to get a lot out of your story. Thank you so much for your share. So, what we're going to do is we're going to raise our hands.